Hello friends and lovers, welcome to a Balatro balancing patch update. We're going to go over what just happened, basically what's going on with this balance patch that Balatro just received. It is in a beta form. You can get it on Steam right now, but you cannot get it on consoles. If you want to get it on Steam, here's all you got to do. You're going to have to go to Steam, right click on the game, go to properties. After you go to properties, go to betas. And then you can just click this drop down and click public experimental build. You don't need a password or anything like that. All you gotta do is that, and the game will update after you choose that. Very simple stuff. But anyway, let's talk about what's in the actual balance patch itself, because it is absolutely amazing, honestly. I played it for a full day today, pretty much only at Gold Stake, and I think that's where the biggest changes lie actually in the game. But let's just read through it line by line, and I'll probably give most of my thoughts at the end, and we'll just kind of do this one detail at a time here. All right, skipping over a few unimportant details, let's just go straight to this. Changed Gold Stake random seeds now ensures that the first legendary joker on that seed is a joker that you have not won with on Gold Stake for completionist plus hunting. I mean, pretty straightforward stuff there, right? Make sure that you get a legendary that you haven't had, because legendaries are very hard to see. So if you're just basically going for Gold Stake completionist, should help you. And then the scaling for the different antes got quite a bit easier. So even the base difficulty got quite a bit easier on antes 3 and 4, interestingly. And on green stake and now purple stake, because those are the stakes that increase the score scaling that you need in terms of the difficulties. So not much to look at there, but basically the game got easier. And that is probably the motto for the balance patch, which is that I feel like the game is definitely easier, especially at the base difficulty. At the higher difficulty, it's actually a bit more complex than that, but I do think overall it's definitely more interesting, 100%. I would never want to revert back to what we had before. But here's where some things get a bit more interesting. Changed orange stake, which is the second to highest difficulty. Scrap the increasing pack cost. So what used to happen is packs would go up in price every single blind by a full $1. So by the time you get to ante 8, like your packs are costing like $12, $13, $15, depending on what kind you get. So it was pretty brutal, but now they have a new mechanic, perishable. Jokers now have a 30% chance to have a perishable sticker, disabling them after 5 rounds. So that's like the eternal sticker that Jokers can get on the black stake. There's a 30% chance that they will have a perishable sticker on them, and after the 5 rounds are up, then that means that they will become debuffed or disabled. You can still sell them after that point in time, but they have absolutely no use, and as far as I could tell, there's no way to get them back. Forgive me, I just wanted to pull up the game so we could actually look at it. I do have it available for us here real quick. I want to pull it up to show an example, because it might be hard to kind of take in. Now, how do you actually find this? Well, I think this is the best I can do, because it's not actually in the collection. Shops can have perishable jokers debuffed after 5 rounds. So you cannot get an eternal and perishable joker, but all the other combinations are possible. And we're going to talk about some of the new combinations there. Before we get too far into this, let's just move on and kind of go over all the details first, right? Change Gold Stake, so instead of having -1 hand size, add a new rental mechanic. Jokers now have a 30% chance to have a rental sticker, which stacks with eternal and perishable potentially, making the cost $1 up front and then $3 every round. This $3 gets charged after a round ends, which means it'll apply before interest, it's pretty tough. Both of these are very challenging mechanics, but they do make sense for the highest difficulties that we have in the game. It definitely is a lot more interesting than what we used to have. Is it easier? Is it harder? It's a bit tough to say at first, but I lean towards it's probably a bit easier, but we might just have to acclimate a little bit. Let's move on for now. Changed Eternal to apply to Jokers and Buffoon packs. This is actually a very big change at the higher difficulties. And it's not just Eternal. You can get both rental and perishable and Jokers in Buffoon packs now, which you couldn't before, which makes Buffoon packs a lot less good, to be honest, at the higher difficulties. Change the first shop in every run to always include a normal Buffoon pack as one of the pack options. This is probably actually one of the biggest changes in the game, and it is so fundamental. It's actually fascinating. This will definitely help with consistency. You will always be able to depend on having at least that $4 Buffoon pack in the first shop. You don't have to worry about going into a shop and having 2 standard packs and 2 planet cards to offer and literally nothing to help you out. That won't happen ever again now. I mean, this is definitely a lifesaver for people trying to go for consistency and just, get wins and entering a run under the premise that, we should be able to win every single run, right? Or at least I hope so. Upcoming blind such tags can now be seen in the shop immediately after defeating a boss blind / cashing out. This is the other second biggest change, I think, or possibly the biggest change. You can look at the upcoming blinds right after a boss. You don't have to hit next round to find out what's going to happen after that. So in other words, you can look at the next boss immediately after the previous. You don't have to wait on that. This is definitely a big change and changes a lot. It also helps a lot with trying to plan out your skips. And we're going to get into that because a lot of the skip tags got changed. In fact, they got a lot better too. So this is great for planning out your skips much better. Some blinds are now be banned on challenge runs. Yeah, basically some challenge runs ban certain bosses. Nothing too major there. Buffed Saturn now gives +3 mult instead of +2 mult for straights. So the planet card for straights is now +3 instead of +2 mult. This is actually a pretty big change for straights and definitely necessary. Straights are struggling right now. Neptune, also same thing. It went from +3 to +4 for straight flushes. Eris even, which is for flush 5, it now gives 50 chips instead of 40. I'm kind of surprised by that one. And Ceres, which is for flush house, +4 mult instead of +3 mult. So basically better scaling on these 4 hands. The straights really needed this. Honestly, I don't think it's quite enough to get straights into a good place yet, but at least we're moving in the right direction, I think. Kind of interesting about these two changes for these two hands, because I found them to be already, I don't know, highly desired for me, but it makes sense that we're not at least buffing high card right now, which is probably a big part of the meta. Moving on, and here we got some of the major changes to the skip tags. Changed uncommon tag, now makes the uncommon Joker free. Same thing for rare, the rare Joker will be free, so it guarantees that rarity of Joker, uncommon, rare, etc., but also makes it free. Negative polychrome hollow foil tags all make their respective Joker free. So if you do the negative skip, which I'm sure a lot of us do, that Joker will be free. It will cost you nothing. That is absolutely amazing. This is definitely a really big change, I think, and makes the skipping a lot more interesting. You're going to have to think a lot harder about some of those decisions, I think, right now. And also makes that anal glyph deck much better, I think, as well. Now, at the higher difficulty, here's the thing that you need to worry about when it comes to using these skip tags. There's now a very high chance of getting those Jokers debuffed with either perishable, rental, or eternal, or some combination of all of them. 30%, it might not sound like a lot, but it feels like a lot. But we'll talk about just sort of the overall feelings after we go through all the changes here. Change investment to give $25 instead of $15. That one where you get the money after you defeat a boss blind. Now it's $25 instead of $15. I was kind of surprised by that one. I took the $15 fairly often. Changed 8 balls. Scrap the old effect. New effect is 1 in 4 chance to spawn a tarot card when any played 8 is score. I do think this is better than the old 8 ball, which was simply spawn a random planet card when you play at least 2 8s, scoring them. Basically, it was a pretty horrible effect, honestly. Random planet cards just have very little value in front of them. This is a better change. Is it amazing? No, but not every Joker needs to be amazing. Change Blue Seal now creates the planet card of the final poker hand played during the round. I think that's a great change, actually. It's a very interesting change, too, that I probably wouldn't have thought of myself. That definitely makes Blue Seals more desirable. Are they going to be more desirable than some of the other seals? Maybe not still, but it definitely helps. Changed both Mad and Clever Jokers. Scrapped contains 4 of a kind effect now applies instead to any hand that contains a 2 pair. So basically, there were these 2 Jokers that were common that would either give you mult or chips if you played a hand that contained a 4 of a kind. And now instead, they give you a bonus for 2 pair. It's not the same effect. The mult is only +10. The old one was +20 if you had 4 of a kind. So you get +10 mult. I can actually pull it up here real quick. Why don't we, huh? If you play a hand that contains a 2 pair. So I like that change, especially since, here we go. So Clever Joker, +80 chips for 2 pair. Mad Joker, +10 mult if played hand contains a 2 pair. These were based around 4 of a kind before. If you were able to consistently score 4 of a kind, it didn't really make sense to have common Jokers of pretty low quality at that point, because at that point in time, you're probably at least halfway through the run, more like 3/4, right? And it doesn't make sense to hold on to some low quality commons there. Change York. Scrap old effect. New effect is gains 1 mult every 23 cards discarded, and it starts at ×1. The important thing is here, 23 cards discarded. So you don't have to do 23 discards. You have to do 23 cards. So that's pretty good. That's definitely better than the old effect of York, and I think it's more fitting to a legendary Joker. I definitely like that. Is it amazing still, like, compared to the others? No, but I think it brings it closer in line. I think that's okay. Change Magician Tarot now applies 2 cards to be lucky instead of 1. I think that's actually amazing, isn't it? That's crazy good, I think. Now, here come a few nerfs, I'm afraid. Get ready. Start digging the ditch here. Change Midas Mask now only applies gold enhancement to scoring face cards. Also costs $1 more. So it used to be that it would be any face cards in your hand, even you're just discarding them and they're not scoring. Now they actually have to score it in order to get the gold enhancement. That's not that big of a deal, but here we go with Vampire. Now only removes enhancements from scoring cards, which is different from prior. You would remove from any cards that you play. It also only gives half as much molt as before, 0.1 instead of 0.2. Brutal. And it is also rare now instead of uncommon. I think this is a bit harsh toward Vampire. I can kind of understand why it might be thought of as being a bit too strong. It was just always good. And the Midas Mask combo was definitely amazing. It was probably too good in order to assure an anti-8 win, especially at the higher difficulties. But this feels a bit heavy, all 3 of these things done to it. You probably could have just done this and then considered it and said, these aren't final, by the way. This is still a beta, so some of these might get reverted or might get changed in some way. We'll see. I do think Vampire is a bit heavy. Change Madness now only applies on small/big blinds, not on boss blind selection. So Madness, in case you don't know what it do, I guess I'm going to pull it up here because it's probably easier that way. Let's see if I can find it quickly. When small blind or big blind selected, gains 0.5 molt and destroys a random joker. So it just won't do that when you're selecting the boss blind. That means it scales more slowly. But it also allows you to potentially pick up a joker just for the boss blind to try to get through it. So it's kind of an interesting ebb and flow there with it. I think it is like a mild nerf overall, especially at the higher difficulties where maybe you got a lot of eternal jokers or something like that and you're just trying to eke out a madness win. I guess I understand this. The problem is Madness still like stinks on ice at the lower stakes if you don't have eternal jokers. But yeah. Change to-do list. Poker hands no longer change on payout, but instead always change at the end of the round. And that way they won't get stuck on something like straight flush. I think I like this change overall. You can definitely milk it pretty good. It's now also $4 instead of $5 per payout, which it doesn't say here. So it's $1 less. But if you get it set to the right hand, you can just play all that same hand in a row, and it won't change until the round's over. Definitely a good change there, I think. Description of shortcut got changed. Nothing special there. Ancient Joker. The selected suit is no longer able to repeat between rounds. Ancient Joker is kind of interesting here, but I guess we'll move on. Swashbuckler. This is nice. Now adds sale value of all other jokers to mult, not just the jokers to the left. Nice little buff to Swashbuckler there, and I think that's fair. It also makes sort of a bunch of other jokers like Egg and Gift Guard a little more interesting. Changed Hanging Chad now retriggers the first played card 2 times instead of once. I think that's fine. I never really thought of Chad as needing much, but it also was a pretty bad joker most of the time. Flower Pot now includes the base suit of debuffed cards when determining if it will trigger. I do think Flower Pot is not an amazing joker, so anything that could help it, I guess we'll take, you know? Bootstraps to include current mult bonus and description. Sorry. That way it just tells you instead of having to do out the math yourself. That's definitely nice. Changed all 4 sinful jokers, 1 for each suit. They now each give +3 mult per suit instead of +4. That's definitely a nerf. That is definitely a nerf for Reno, and I think we'll feel it at the lower difficulties even too. Played cards with Diamond Suit give +3 instead of +4 mult when scored nowadays, and that's for all 4 of them. I think I understand. I mean, I definitely was guilty of taking those super often. This is probably a slight target at trying to hit flushes down a little bit. Change Banner now gives +30 chips per remaining discard instead of +40. I was really surprised by this because I thought Banner was terrible, kind of. I thought Banner was bad. I definitely didn't think it was good, but yeah, a little surprised by that one. Fibonacci now costs $1 more because it's Fibonacci. Steel Joker now gives 0.2 mult per steel card in the full deck instead of 0.25. Mild nerf there. Odd Todd now gives 31 chips instead of 30. Here's some bigger ones. 6 cents now uncommon and $6. It used to be rare. That is the Joker that would spawn a spectral card whenever you play a 6. It would destroy the 6 too. So it still does all that, but now it's uncommon. So it got rid of it out of the rare category. That's actually a good move, and you'll see why, I think, in a little bit here. Hiker now gives 5 chips instead of 4 per played card. Pretty mild thing there. Gross Michelle now has a 1 in 6 chance to go extinct instead of 1 in 4. That's actually a nerf, believe it or not. Because the main purpose of Gross Michelle is to actually get it to destroy itself so that you can get Cavendish to appear, which is the actual good Joker out of it. So taking longer to destroy it, or possibly never getting destroyed, it actually is, I think this might actually be a bit tough. I think this might almost be too rough, honestly, but it's kind of a gamble. I don't know, you could still try it out. It's interesting. I mean, the banana on its own, I guess, is okay early on. And I guess you're still happy if it destroys itself if you can. Seance now uncommon, was rare, and it's $1 less. That is similar to 6 cents here. Let me see if I can find Seance for us. If poker hand is a straight flush, create a random spectral card. So uncommon, it's actually good that it's uncommon, because that means if you do want to skip for a guaranteed rare Joker, that category is significantly better now that Seance and 6 cents are not in it, because those are generally bad Jokers. They're just too niche. There might be moments where they're useful, but you don't really want them hogging up the rare category, I think, too much. It allows those rare skip tags to be so much more useful. So Vagabond got a pretty rough nerf here. Well, it's not that bad. I think this is within reason. Vagabond is now rare. It used to be uncommon. Would cost $8 instead of 6 in the shop. And now the effect applies at $4 or less instead of 3 or less. So I guess it's like buff in that sense. But the fact that it's rare does make it harder to get. So overall, we'll be seeing Vagabond a bit less now. I think that's fair, though. It's a very strong Joker. Cloud9 is a $1 more. Mail-in rebate, $2 more. I mean, that's an amazing Joker, so I was shocked that it was only $3, honestly. Reserve parking is now common. It was uncommon. Reserve parking is the one where you get like $1 if you're holding a face card, maybe. I think it's like a 50-50. Oh boy, can I find it? It should be easy to find. Here we go. Each face card held in hand has a 1 in 2 chance to give $1. So now that's common instead. That makes sense. It didn't really suit as an uncommon for sure. Lucky Cat now gives 0.25 per lucky proc, was 0.2. I'm going to guess that lucky cards just weren't that good or something, or weren't taken a lot, weren't used a lot. I kind of like them. But yeah, I like that change. I like that change. Lucky Cat, I like that. I want to use Lucky Cat more. Trading card now costs $1 more. Campfire, big nerf here. Now gains 0.25 per card sold. Used to be 0.5. 50% nerf. Really rough. Campfire is the one when you sell a card, it gains some mult temporarily until the boss blind is over. Yeah, definitely rough. I think I kind of understand it because it could eke out wins very easily and kind of cheese you past some of the higher difficulties. Smiley Face now gives +5 mult per face card. It used to be 4. Golden Ticket now pays out $4 per gold card. Played was $3. Bloodstone, here's a big one, now has a 1 in 2 chance to proc. It used to be 1 in 3. If you don't know Bloodstone, let me pull her up for you, shall we? How quickly can we find Bloodstone? Oh, I went past it. 1 in 2 chance for played cards with Heart Suit to give ×2 multiple score. This does mean if you have the Oops All Sixes Joker, it is guaranteed to multiply your mult by 2. That is insanity. That is a insanely good combo. Can I find Oops All Sixes in case you don't know it? I swear, I always go the wrong way here. Doubles all listed probabilities, so it would make it guaranteed. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's been basically idle, but earlier in some ways, you know? It's also like Tribula, the legendary, but isn't a legendary, you know? It's also kind of easier that way, but it does require 2 Jokers to make it guaranteed. Really interesting stuff there. Onyxate now gives +7 mult per club card, used to be +8. Glass Joker now gives 0.75 mult per glass card destroyed, was 0.5. I think that makes sense. It was pretty rough to scale that one up. Stuntman now gives 250 chips. It was 300. I think that's fair. Very strong Joker. Still very strong even as is, I think. Invisible Joker, this was interesting. Now requires 2 rounds and costs $8. It was 3 rounds and cost $10. I was kind of surprised by this. Invisible Joker is definitely a key feature of Endless Mode, so I was kind of surprised that this seemed necessary, but I guess I don't totally, I don't know everything, Burnt Joker now is rare, used to be uncommon. A little surprised by that one too. Maybe they felt like this is the Joker that just needs to change. Upgrade the level of the first discarded poker handy tround. Maybe this is a weirdly targeted nerf towards high card, because going for high card runs when you get Burnt Joker early was maybe too easy, so this makes that a little bit, makes high card slightly harder to get done. So there you go. Those are basically all of the changes. And I gotta say, I pretty much love all of them, especially the things that affect orange and gold stake. You're definitely gonna feel it there the most. I think the skip tags are really, really interesting. Honestly, it definitely makes you think a lot harder about what's going on here. I gotta say, there's a lot of ideas here that I never would have thought of in terms of changes, and I love to see that the dev is actively working on the game and thinking really hard about how to change some things instead of, you know, basically using a feather duster to adjust a number here, adjust a number there. Some of these changes are quite fundamental, especially to the difficulties, like peeking at the blind up ahead is definitely big. Guaranteeing that buffoon pack at the first shop every run is definitely big. And these new sticker mechanics are really big. I gotta say, they are frustrating, but they are frustrating in an interesting way. I'm not certain if this is where I want them to land. It does feel like if you play Gold Stake, and you'll probably see some runs from me on this patch very, very soon, by the way. If you play Gold Stake on this balance patch here, this beta, it just feels like everything has some kind of detriment on it. Every single Joker has a really rough detriment on it, you know what I mean? And maybe that's sort of how it should feel. But yeah, it's pretty tough. So if something gets debuffed, by the way, from the perishable mechanic, you can't sell it for the full sellable price afterwards, at least. You know, it cannot have eternal and perishable, which I think makes sense. But yeah, it's definitely pretty spicy right now. But yeah, I look forward to what other changes might happen. I'm definitely going to give my feedback to the developer via the Discord or wherever. If you got any questions for me, make sure you let me know. You will see some footage from me, of course, featuring the update very, very shortly. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. And I'll see you in the next video.